The Black Death, a mysterious plague that swept across Europe and claimed the lives of millions. Entire cities vanished, families were wiped out overnight, and the world was left asking one terrifying question: was the Black Death God's punishment? In today's video, we'll uncover the truth behind this tragic event and explore how the Black Death forever changed Christian faith. The Black Death, also known as the Bubonic Plague, was the most devastating pandemic in human history. It swept across Europe between 1347 and 1351, killing nearly 25 to 50 million people. The disease was caused by the bacterium Yersinia pestis and spread through fleas carried by rats, which traveled aboard ships and trade caravans from Asia into Europe. Within just a few short years, entire villages vanished, families disappeared overnight, and cities became graveyards. No one had ever witnessed such horror before. And in this moment of terror, all eyes turned toward the church, the heart of faith, hope, and authority in the medieval world. During the Middle Ages, almost every European was Christian. The church ruled over every part of life, from education and morality to kings and kingdoms. So when the plague struck, the people looked to their priests for answers. But medicine was primitive and science was silent. There was no understanding of germs or infection. People believed the plague was God's judgment, divine punishment for the sins of humanity. Priests preached repentance and fasting. They called the people to confess their sins and beg for God's mercy. Public prayer processions filled the streets, thousands walking barefoot, crying out for forgiveness. Yet, despite all the prayers, the dying never stopped. Even priests and bishops began to fall. The church, once seen as the unshakable bridge between heaven and earth, was now powerless. Faith began to crumble, and the people whispered in despair, "If even God's servants fall, then who can be saved?" The plague did not just kill bodies, it killed certainty. The church, once seen as unshakable, seemed helpless. Priests fled from towns to save their own lives. Confessions went unheard. Masses were left uncelebrated. The last rites, once the sacred bridge to heaven, were denied because no priest dared come near the dying. And in this silence, fear turned to doubt. People began to question not just the church, but God himself. If God was good, why did he allow such suffering? If the church was holy, why was it powerless? The spiritual foundation of Europe began to crack. Out of desperation rose a strange and terrifying movement, the Flagellants. These were groups of men who marched from town to town, whipping their own backs with iron chains, believing that their pain would atone for humanity's sins and stop the plague. Crowds gathered to watch. Some joined them in tears, thinking salvation could be earned through suffering. But the church saw them as heretics, rebellious fanatics who challenged its authority. Soon, Pope Clement VI condemned the flagellant movement, fearing it would spark chaos and rebellion. Even in the search for God's mercy, faith was dividing. As fear deepened, people began looking for someone to blame. Rumors spread that the plague was caused by Jews poisoning wells, or by sorcery, or by divine anger at unbelievers. In many cities, Jewish communities were massacred, burned alive, or driven out, all in the name of God's justice. What began as faith turned into fanaticism. Instead of bringing unity, the plague revealed the darkness in the human heart: hatred, fear, and violence. The very faith that once united Europe was now tearing it apart. Meanwhile, in Avignon, France, Pope Clement VI lived in isolation, surrounded by fires, hoping the smoke would cleanse the air of death. Even the head of Christendom was powerless. The church issued prayers and indulgences, promised mercy for the dead, and tried to explain God's plan. But no explanation could calm the terror that swept through the continent. Many began to believe that the end of the world had come. When the plague finally subsided around 1351, the survivors were not the same. Faith had been shaken, and the church's image was wounded. Many saw the clergy as corrupt and powerless, more concerned with wealth than with saving souls. Others sought a more personal relationship with God, outside the church's control. This spiritual hunger would later fuel movements like John Wycliffe's Reforms and, eventually, the Protestant Reformation. The Black Death did not destroy faith, but it transformed it. It forced people to ask deeper questions about suffering, salvation, and God's will. The Black Death was more than a tragedy. It was a spiritual test. It revealed both the strength and weakness of faith. Some turned away from God. Others clung to him even more tightly. But one thing is certain. The plague forever changed how humanity saw God, the church, and itself. Was it punishment, a test, or simply the cost of living in a fallen world? That answer, even today, remains a mystery. Drop your thoughts in the comments. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. Thank you for watching. May God bless you.